Okay, guys, next up is example 7, which is adding and subtracting expressions with unlike radicands. Unlike would mean that you're going to have different values under the radical sign. So they won't be the same, and we'll need to look at them and see if there's ways we can combine them or change them so that they can be combined. So that's going to be the challenge for this particular example. All right, look at these problems here. You see that we've got 2 times the square root of 18 plus 2 times the square root of 32 plus the square root of 72. Obviously, 18, 32, and 72 are not like each other, right? So what we're going to try to do is see what we can do with simplifying these so that they can be similar, or get some of them similar, so we can combine them and simplify this further so that instead of maybe having 3 terms, we can get it down to 2 or even 1 term. All right, so let's start with this. So we're going to do 2 times the square root of 18 first. We'll do that one. So we're going to do this one. All right, so 2 times the square root of 18 is 2, and then think about what's the largest square number we can pull out of 18. Well, I know I can pull 9 out of it. I can go 9 times 2. So I have 2 times that, right? So if we split that up, you get 2 times the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. Well, the square root of 9 is 3. So you have 2 times 3 times the square root of 2, which simplifies to 6 times the square root of 2. All right, now let's take a look at the next one. 2 times the square root of 32. All right, for that one, I know I can pull 16 out of that. So I have 2 times the square root of 16 times 2, because 16 is a factor of 32. We'll rewrite that. And I'm breaking this down step by step. You guys can jump right ahead as you're doing these on your own. But you get 2 times 4, because the square root of 16 is 4, times 2, which gives us 8 times the square root of 2. And then for the last one, we have 2 times, and then I'm going to break this down to 36 times 2, because the square root of 36 is 6, right? Oops, I made a mistake there. Like I said, still getting the hang of everything here. All right? So now that simplifies. You have 2 times 6 times the square root of 2, which gives you 12 times the square root of 2. So pretty much we're going to rewrite these now. We're going to rewrite this expression with that, and that, right? With all 3 of these instead. So we're going to rewrite that one as 6 times the square root of 2. And now this one, we're going to rewrite as plus 8 times the square root of 2. And then this one as plus 12 times the square root of 2. All right? So, and I realized I made a mistake here. The mistake I made is there should be no 2 here or here or here. So instead of that being 12 times the square root of 2, that should just be 6 times the square root of 2. Let's fix this over here. All right, get rid of all this stuff so that it doesn't look as confusing. Now if you take a look at this, it makes a lot more sense. All right, so add all these up, right? We're gonna go with the highlighter here. So we're going to add these 3 numbers up, and that will give us 6 plus 8 is 14, plus 6 is 20. So that gives you 20 times the square root of 2. So that's one type of problem, all right? So they're all kind of in the same sort of vein, and varying levels of difficulty. So let's look at a couple more. All right, this one here is going to be the same type of problem. I want you guys to pause the screen and see if you can figure this out. Okay, welcome back. Let's start with 4 times the square root of 54. So we got 4 times the square root of 54. So let's break that up into 4 times, well, I know I can pull 9 out of that, right? Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. So it's, and notice I'm going right to this step right here, okay? Because I know 9 times 6 gives me 54. All right, and then when I finish that up, I get 4 times 3 because the square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 6 stays unsimplified, and you wind up with 12 times the square root of 6. Now for this one, 2 times the square root of 24, I want to see if maybe will it work if I break that up so that there's a 6 in there, and it will. I have 2 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 6, which combine to make 24. So I have 2 times, that becomes 2 times the square root of 6, which is 4 times the square root of 6. Now I've got 12 times the square root of 6 plus 4 times the square root of 6. 12 plus 4, 16 times the square root of 6. Okay, next problem. All right, pause, try the problem, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Okay, so first part, 3 times the square root of 45. All right, we're going to bust that up into 9 and 5, because I know 9 is a square number. All right, and that gives me 3 times 3 times the square root of 5. So you get 9 times the square root of 5. That worked out kind of nicely. All right, next one, square root of 20. Everything's going to be under the radicals until we break it apart. I think we're going to try and see what we can find that works with that square root of 5. And in this case, 4 times 5 factors out. All right, so you wind up with 2 because the square root of 4 is 2 times the square root of 5. All right, and actually, I don't need to simplify that any further. That is good to go. All right, last one. Now, with this last one, what's interesting about this is it's a pretty big number, but I know that these other two wound up with, with square roots of 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just divide 245 by 5 and see what I get. So, and I haven't done this problem before, so I'm doing this in live time. And so check that out. I get 49, right? Which is perfect because 49 is a square number. So that breaks down to this. And you can do this with a calculator if that works for you. That's absolutely fine. And then that will give you 7 times the square root of 5. All right? And then the last thing is just add them all up. So I have 9 times the square root of 5, which is this one, plus 2 times the square root of 5, which is this one, plus 7 times the square root of 5, which is this last one. Add your 9, 2, and your 7. You get 18 times the square root of 5, and you are good to go. All right, last example here for this one. So same type of thing. Stop, and then come back. All right. Square root of 24 is square root of 4 times 6, which gives me 2 times square root of 6. All right. Now square root of 54 gives me square root of 9 times the square root of 6, which gives me 3 times the square root of 6. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did in that last example where I'm noticing that I'm finishing up with, square roots of 6. So I'm going to try dividing this by 6 and see what I get. So if I go 96 divided by 6, you get 1, 6, 3, 6. You get 16, right? That's good because 16 is a square number. Square root of 16 is 4 times square root of 6. So we're good to go. Add them all up. And you get 2 plus 3 plus 4, which gives you 5 plus 4 is 9 times the square root of 6. So hopefully these are making some sense to you. Play around with them, and don't be afraid to make mistakes with this. So I appreciate you guys watching the videos, and I hope they're getting a little better as we go on. I'm trying not to say as much, but good luck with that. Thank you.